Siin see kõik algaski. Minu isa, Tindur Leškin, hüüdnimega Sigi, sündis siin aastal 1947. Lapsena tekkis tal joonistamise vastu huvi, aga põhikoolis hakkas ta sellega tõsiselt tegelema. Ta teadis väga noorelt, et kunstniku töö on tema tulevik.
How was Sigi when he was young?
Sigi is 13 years older than me. So he's pretty old now, and but I'm not, as you can see. And when he was a young man, I was just a small girl, so I was his little sister, and for him maybe I was a little bit invisible. For him I was maybe a little bit invisible.
Sigi elas kodus ja õppis Islandil kunstikoolis, kuni ta oli 21 aastane. 1969 aastal läks ta kodust ära Hollandisse kunstikooli 9 aastaks. Tagasi Islandile jõudis kolis Sigi kodust välja ja alustas tegelemist graafilise disainiga.
How was it to live in Iceland?
We have, of course, in Iceland we have this advantage over many countries. We have beautiful nature, we have good clean air, we have very clean water, which I always miss if I'm somewhere abroad, because we don't have to buy water here, we just drink it from the tap.
How was Sigi when he was young?
Well, when my mother was pregnant of me, he wanted to have a sister. And then he had a baby brother. He said, well, I've been nice to him anyway. And he was most of the time, but when I was 10, 11, 12, and he 13, 14, 15, then he was very mean, and I was very angry. And that was only 2-3 years because of the age difference when we were teenagers.
Kui aastal 2002 tegeles mu isa filmiga Leivur õnnelik ja kuidas ta leidis Ameerika, palus ta Eerikurilt, et ta kirjutaks laulu sõnad sellele filmile.
How is it to live in Iceland?
It's very good to live in Iceland. Everybody knows everybody, and we have a fine way of thinking. We call it the reddast. It's the same as in Spain, they say mañana. No problems. Þetta reddast allt saman.
How is it to be a parent in Iceland? A new parent?
It's a little bit difficult.
How so?
Because, for an example, for my little boy, he doesn't get into kindergarten because we live in Reykjavik. So he doesn't get into kindergarten until very late. So I have started to work, so we have problems. I have started to work, both of us. I need to put him in a daycare, which is much more expensive. And not with professional people working there and stuff like that.
Islandil on alati olnud raske lapsi panna terveks päevaks lasteaeda, kuna lasteaeda on vähe ja kasvatajaid pole piisavalt. Kui Helga oli laps, oli raske leida talle lasteaeda. Olukord on tänaseks paranenud, kuid see on ikka päevavalgel probleem.
What kind of a father was Sigi?
He was a little bit strict sometimes, but also fun to be with, always telling stories and joking and always teaching me something. He taught me to read. He was an educator in a way. So.
What has Sigi taught you in life?
Never get married to an artist, he said. So I didn't. I'm not married to anyone, so.
How is it to live in Iceland?
Well, I've only lived in Iceland and California and America, and even though America is often great, it's not so great in other times. I like it here, and also it's just if you live somewhere and you sort of are content with your lot, then you are happy, and that's sort of what, of course, everybody should aim at, to be happy and be able to sort of live where they live. And I like to be in Iceland. I wouldn't like to live in other places.
How was Siggi as a brother?
Well, there's so much age difference. He's 13 years older than I was, so he was, when I started remembering things, he's pretty much sort of not very interested in, it's sort of getting out of the picture. He wasn't very much around us. Eiríkur took sort of got more of us than Siggi did, because, as I say, Siggi has left home basically around 67 when I'm 7 years old. So I can't really remember sort of the times when he was around us very much. Of course, I remember something, but he sort of was out of the picture sort of when I start remembering anything, really.
What is your opinion on tourism in Iceland?
Well, the tourism industry basically saved us after the crash of 2008. It's probably going to get diminished a little bit because sort of we're fashionable these days. We will, in the end, not be fashionable because nobody comes to Iceland to sit in the sun. Like you go to Mallorca or some places like that, you can go again and again because there's always sun there. But here in Iceland, it's different. I mean, you don't go to enjoy life as much. You go to see the nature and hopefully the culture. I think that's a thing that is underestimated in the tourist industry. The tourists that follow the culture, and that should be sort of emphasized more.
When did you start drawing?
I was very young when I started to be interested in drawing as a child, and 6, 7, 8, 9 year old in children's school, and then it became a real obsession in early high school, 12, 13 and 15, and I was just doing nothing else. Very clear that this is what I wanted to do, to be drawing, become an artist. I didn't really know how or when or where, but I wanted to draw.
And who supported you?
Everybody supported me, and my father was especially, when he got over it that I would probably not become a lawyer like he was. He was very clever to buy for me, he was very much traveling, so buy for me equipment you couldn't buy in Iceland, colors and paints and brushes and pens and everything. So I could experiment quite a lot with all kinds of equipment.
Where did you study art as a career?
I went 17-year-old into the Arts College of Iceland and came in there, and it was 2 years in some preparing classes, doing a lot of preparing work, model drawing for instance. And then on the third year we went to some specialized department, and then I went to the newly developed graphic design department, and was 2 years there.
When and why did you start making animation?
That was when I came from Holland, and then I was working in a graphic design studio, and the one client, we had then TV in Iceland for some time, and one client wanted a commercial advertisement, animation. And my boss in the studio, he knew that I was making cartoons, and he was asking
are you ready to do animation? And I was, of course, young, like all young people, quite brave and not afraid of anything. And I had a book with my other friend in school about animation, so I said, of course I will do it. And I said to my friend, I need a book because I'm going to make an animation. And then next day I started to make this film, and it was very primitive, very interesting, very much fun. And we made the film in 1 month. And after that I was hooked in this, doing some little short commercials, and in the end my own film, and eventually went abroad to make.
What are you doing now artistically?
I started to paint. It's like I have been doing everything, and now I'm painting, and this is something I never did. I did last time in Holland when I was there studying this painting here on the wall, and it was different then, of course. I carried it with me all the time, and now I continued to work with it and finished it, and now I'm a painter and a very nice life.
What do you want to change in Siggy?
Nothing. He's 70 years old. I don't want to change him. I can't. You can't change people. You can change yourself, but not other people.